They say death is inevitable, but some men looked it straight in the eyes and did not step back. In a narrow mountain pass, trapped between cliffs and the sea, only 300 Spartan warriors stood between freedom and darkness, and even knowing they would never return home, they chose to fight. Today we relive the most heroic last stand in history. This is the day when courage defeated fear. The mighty Persian king, Xerxes I, ruler of a vast empire stretching from India to Egypt, sought to bring Greece to its knees. Commanding an army described by ancient chronicles as millions strong, though modern historians estimate it was between 150,000 and 250,000. Xerxes marched west with one singular goal: destroy Greek freedom forever. But before he could reach the heart of Greece, there stood a narrow passage, the hot gates of Thermopylae. The Spartan council had forbidden King Leonidas from taking the full army to war. A sacred festival was underway, and the gods, they said, must be honored. But Leonidas knew time was running out. He made the hardest decision of his life. He would march to war with only his 300 elite hoplites. Before leaving, his wife Gorgo asked him what she should do. He told her to marry a good man and bear good children. As he departed, she gave him the most sacred Spartan farewell. "Come back with your shield," or on it. Leonidas had carefully chosen each of the 300. All were fathers of living sons, ensuring Sparta's bloodline would survive, even if they fell. Because yes, they already knew they would not return. Thermopylae was no open battlefield. It was a narrow choke point where only a handful of soldiers could fight side by side. It was a place where terrain was the great equalizer. Leonidas discovered a truth that would echo through history. Here, numbers did not matter. Inside the pass, the Spartan shield wall, the phalanx, became an unbreakable barrier of bronze and muscle. At Thermopylae, the 300 were not just warriors. They were a wall of iron. When Xerxes first saw their meager force holding the pass, he smirked. He believed it would be an easy victory. He was wrong. Persian trumpets roared. Wave after wave of soldiers charged forward, only to crash against the immovable Spartan phalanx. The hoplites pushed with their massive shields, struck with their short spears, and when those snapped, they fought with swords, elbows, knees, even their teeth. Hundreds of Persians fell for every one Spartan. King Xerxes, watching from a distant throne, grew frustrated. The Spartans executed precise tactical retreats, pretending to tire and break formation. And when the overeager Persians lunged forward, the Spartans would whip around like wolves pouncing on their prey. They shattered the Persian assault again and again. That day, the 300 forged a legend in blood and steel. Enraged by the repeated failures of his army, Xerxes finally unleashed his elite guard, the 10,000 Immortals. They were said to be the finest warriors in the known world, their numbers never faltering. But Leonidas was ready. The tight Spartan formation completely negated their superior numbers and legendary skill. In the narrow pass, the Immortals were pushed back, overwhelmed and ultimately defeated. Their myth of invincibility shattered at the feet of Spartan discipline. For the first time, Xerxes felt something he thought was impossible for a god-king like himself: fear. But tragedy approached. A local Greek named Ephialtes, seeking Persian gold and favor, revealed a hidden mountain path that bypassed the main pass. That night, under the cover of darkness, Persian troops silently marched around the cliffs, guided by the traitor. When Leonidas received the news from a scout, he knew the end had come. He did not retreat. He did not beg for mercy. He simply told his men, "Eat well, for tonight we dine in Hades." At dawn, the Spartans were surrounded. The Persian army was in front of them and behind them. But still they fought. No spears left, no shields left. With broken swords, and when nothing remained, with their bare hands. Leonidas, the Lion King, fell beneath a storm of arrows. His warriors fought desperately over his body, refusing to surrender their king even in death. One by one, they were cut down. Not one Spartan fled. The Persians won the ground, but the Spartans won eternity. Their sacrifice bought precious time. The Greek cities, inspired by their courage, finally united. Soon after, at the naval battle of Salamis and the land battle of Plataea, They crushed the Persian invasion for good. Had the 300 not stood their ground at Thermopylae, democracy, philosophy, theater, science, the very foundations of our modern world, might never have existed. Thermopylae was not just a battle. It was a timeless reminder that when fear seems invincible, courage can change the destiny of humanity. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe for more.
History is filled with epic tales of bravery, but few can match the story of Thermopylae. It's a tale that has echoed through millennia, a testament to what a few can achieve against overwhelming odds. This isn't just a story of a battle. It's a story of when courage stared fear in the face and refused to blink. The year is 480 BC. The mighty Persian Empire, led by King Xerxes, has amassed an army of unprecedented size. Their goal, the complete subjugation of Greece, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, a force so vast it was said to drink rivers dry, marched relentlessly towards the heart of the Greek city-states. Faced with this terrifying invasion, many Greek states submitted, believing resistance was futile. But not all. A small coalition of Greek states, led by Sparta, decided to make a stand. They knew they couldn't defeat the Persian army in an open field. They needed to choose their ground carefully, a place where the Persian numbers would mean nothing. They chose a narrow coastal pass called Thermopylae, which means the hot gates. This pass was so narrow that only a few men could fight abreast. It was the perfect choke point. Leading this defiant force was the Spartan king, Leonidas. He was a man forged in the brutal Spartan agoge, a military training system that pushed boys to their out limits. At 60 years old, he was a seasoned warrior and a respected leader. He handpicked 300 of his finest Spartans, not just any soldiers, but men who had sons to carry on their family lines, a grim acknowledgement of the mission's likely outcome. They were joined by several thousand other Greeks, including Thespians, Thebans, and others who refused to bow to Xerxes. In total, a force of perhaps 7,000 men prepared to face an army estimated to be over 200,000 strong. As the Persian host arrived, Xerxes was amused. He saw the tiny Greek force blocking his path and couldn't believe their audacity. He sent envoys demanding their surrender. Leonidas's response has become legendary. When the Persians told the Spartans to lay down their weapons, Leonidas famously replied, "Molin labe, come and get them." For 4 days, Xerxes waited, assuming the Greeks would see the futility of their position and disperse. They didn't. So, on the 5th day, the attack began. Xerxes sent in his Median and Sisan troops, wave after wave, into the narrow pass. They were met by a wall of bronze shields and long spears. The Greeks, with their superior armor, longer spears, and discipline, held their ground. The Spartan hoplites were masters of the phalanx formation, an interlocking wall of shields that was nearly impenetrable. The bodies of fallen Persians began to pile up, creating a gruesome barrier for their own comrades. Xerxes was furious. He then sent in his elite troops, the legendary Immortals. They were called Immortals because their number was always kept at exactly 10,000. Any man who was killed or fell ill was immediately replaced. They were the best fighters in the Persian Empire. Yet, even they could not break the Greek line. The Spartans employed a clever tactic. They would pretend to retreat, luring the Persians into a disorganized charge. Then, they would suddenly turn and reform their phalanx, cutting down the charging enemy. The day ended with heavy Persian losses and the Greek line unbroken. The second day of battle was a repeat of the first. More waves of Persian infantry were sent to their deaths against the unyielding Greek defenders. Xerxes, watching from his throne on a nearby hill, was said to have leapt to his feet in frustration 3 times. His massive army was being held at bay by a handful of men. It seemed impossible. Fear was beginning to creep into the Persian ranks, while the Greeks, despite their own fatigue and losses, were emboldened by their success. Their courage was infectious, but the tide was about to turn, not through force of arms, but through betrayal. A local Greek named Ephialtes, hoping for a rich reward from Xerxes, revealed the existence of a secret mountain path that would allow the Persians to bypass the main pass and attack the Greeks from behind. This was the moment of truth. When Leonidas learned that his position was compromised, he knew the end was near. He held a council of war. He could have ordered a full retreat, saving his men to fight another day. He had already accomplished his primary mission, delaying the Persian army long enough for the rest of Greece to mobilize its forces and prepare for the naval battle at Artemisium. But retreat was not the Spartan way. Leonidas dismissed the bulk of the Greek army, ordering them to fall back and warn the other cities. He, however, chose to stay. His 300 Spartans would remain, along with around 700 Thespians who volunteered to stay and fight to the death beside them. Some Thebans were also compelled to stay. This was a conscious decision, a sacrifice to uphold the honor of Sparta and to inspire the rest of Greece. They were not just fighting for a pass, they were fighting for an idea, the idea of freedom. On the third day, knowing they were surrounded, the Greeks made their final stand. They no longer fought defensively in the narrowest part of the pass. Instead, they advanced into the wider section, determined to kill as many Persians as possible before they fell. They fought with a fury born of desperation and courage. Leonidas himself fell in the brutal fighting, and a fierce battle raged over his body. The Greeks drove the enemy back for times to recover their fallen king. Eventually, their spears shattered. They fought on with their short swords. When their swords broke, they fought with their bare hands and teeth. Pushed back to a small hill, they were surrounded on all sides. The Persians, wary of closing in on these ferocious warriors, finally finished them off with a volley of arrows. Every last one of them died. When the battle was over, Xerxes found the body of Leonidas. In a fit of rage at the defiance that had cost him so much, he ordered Leonidas' head to be cut off, and his body crucified, an act considered barbaric even by the standards of the time. So, did the Greeks lose, militarily? Yes, they were annihilated. But in a much larger sense, they achieved a victory that transcended the battlefield. The 3 days they bought allowed the Greek navy to reposition and ultimately win the decisive Battle of Salamis, which crippled the Persian fleet. The story of the 300 Spartans and their allies became a rallying cry for all of Greece. It showed that the mighty Persian Empire was not invincible. It demonstrated that free men, fighting for their homes and their liberty, could stand against a tyrannical force, no matter the odds. The sacrifice at Thermopylae inspired a generation. A year later, at the Battle of Plataea, a united Greek army decisively defeated the remaining Persian forces, ending the invasion for good. The Greeks, when they charged the Persian lines at Plataea, shouted the names of Leonidas and the 300. The stand at Thermopylae is more than just history. It's a lesson in the power of courage. It teaches us that true victory isn't always about survival. It's about standing for what you believe in, even in the face of certain defeat. It's about choosing to defy fear, not because you are guaranteed to win, but because it is the right thing to do. The legacy of Leonidas and his men is not one of defeat, but of immortal glory. They lost the battle, but their courage helped win the war and secure the future of Western civilization. Thank you for watching. If you found this story inspiring as I do, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more tales of epic history. See you next time.